Thank you guys so much. And it looks like, yeah. Looks like it may not quite be. So worst case, I'll go on to the the camera off on this stream. Hope you guys are doing well on your Thursday. So yes, as I began earlier with this stream in mind, that we have quite a few things going on. Is the camera here just for a bit. Okay, hope you guys are doing well. I'm not sure if it's not, I can't say that it's not some level of censorship. So we'll just hang here for just a bit. Shout out to Chrysler Imperial H. Thank you so much for coming back. Shout out to Luciano. Thank you guys all so much for keeping everything in play with the Channelytics and taking care to hit that thumbs up or the thumbs down. Appreciate you guys for all that you do. So I'm going to jump right into this. I only have about 30 minutes, about 40 minutes that I'm going to be able to spend on this. I apologize for the delays, but I think this might even warrant a moonlight stream because I don't like breaking up the streams at any time. So shout out to the loyal subscribers and patrons. Shout out to Derek C. Williams, Killer Whale Channels, Chrysler Imperial H, the Angels Army, the Definition of Anarchy, Little Miss Goth, Gary L. Youngkees Jr., and a special shout out to Cold War Jesus. Thank you guys so much for all that you do. And I will try to keep this as brief as I can. Part of me I feel compelled to do a bit of a rant, but I will try to spare you on that. I do want to cover just a couple of stories that I think are, the news is, frame by frame, headline by headline, everything just kind of keeps getting, it's just pile on. Every week is pile on 2020 is what I'm going to call this. Pile on 2020. Hope everybody's doing well. Thank you guys so much. With that said, let's go ahead and take a look at our first story, and it's going to come to you from my vetted source, the TNA. Hope you guys are doing well. Thank you guys so much for tuning in. So we'll begin with a story from the TNA, and I'll be taking you there right now. But just a few words from our friends. This segment of our show is brought to you by our good friends at the John Birch Society. Less government, more responsibility, and with God's help, a better world. The JBS is a constitutional and educational organization that's been around for over 60 years, dedicated to upholding and defending the Constitution and working to preserve our freedoms and liberties in this country. The JBS does not endorse any political party or candidates. Rather, it focuses on the education, training, and development of the American voters. All right. Once again, thank you guys so much for joining me on this segment of Black Spring with Autumn. And I will be sharing the screen with you guys. And that screen is going to, once again, be coming to you from the JBS. And here what you have before you is the TNA. This is written by Luis Miguel, the nation's second largest teachers union, okays strikes over school reopenings. So I'll try to get in and out of this really quickly. We have to dig deep around here. Okay, according to this, the American Federation of Teachers, the second largest teachers union in the country, is authorizing its members to go on strike if their schools don't meet their standards for a, quote, safe, end quote, reopening amid the COVID-19 pandemic. All right. The 1.7 million school employee strong union says it will lend its support to any local chapter that wishes to strike over infection rates are low and schools can enact safety measures. In her announcement of this policy, Union President Randy Weingarten called President Trump's approach to school reopenings, quote, chaotic and catastrophic, end quote, claiming the administration has left educators angry and fearful. Quote, we will fight on all fronts for the safety of our students and their educators, end quote, Weingarten told the group's annual convention. Quote, but if authorities don't protect the safety and health of those we represent and those we serve, as our executive council voted last week, nothing is off the table, end quote. The union's leadership approved the legislation on Friday and announced it on Tuesday at its convention. Their resolution identifies their conditions for reopening of schools, which include mandatory mask, social distancing, and updated ventilation systems. Additionally, get this. Additionally, the union claims schools should only reopen in areas with infection rates below 5% and transmission rates below 1%. And only if local officials have taken steps to trace and isolate cases. AP notes, for many schools, more funding will be needed to reopen safely. The group said it estimates the average school will need at least $1.2 million amounting to $116 billion nationwide. The resolution says Trump and the Senate Republicans have, quote, failed to negotiate and pass a new stimulus bill to address the resources vitally needed for reopening our schools, end quote. In her speech, Weingarten said teachers want schools to reopen. Children need in-person instruction, she said, and the remote instruction is, quote, no substitute for it, end quote. But she said teachers need to know they'll be kept safe. Now, Weingarten also said that before President Trump began pressing schools reopen, a poll found that its members were comfortable returning to school with safeguards in place. Quote, now they're afraid and angry, end quote. She said many are quitting, retiring, or writing their wills, end quote. In other words, they were fine going to school until it was something Donald Trump wanted. Now, that the president supports the reopening of schools, they have a, quote, duty to be against it. Okay, so here we have also a bit of a Twitter in Trump style. Trump style is what I call this. He said that the schools that refuse to reopen in the fall could be in danger of losing federal funding. So here you have from the president in Germany, Denmark, Norway, Sweden, and many other countries, schools are open with no problems. The Dems think that that would be bad for them politically if U.S. schools open before the November election. But it is important for children and families may cut off funding if not open. All right, so I'm going to wrap this in a little bit here. So again, I'll give you my take on this. But the most recent coronavirus stimulus proposal from the White House and Senate Republicans set apart $105 million for schools and colleges, but some of the money is only for schools that reopen for in-person learning. Education Secretary Betsy DeVos is on the same page as the president. She told Fox News' Tucker Carlson that she is, quote, very seriously, end quote, looking into cutting off funding to schools that don't open back up. Quote, kids have to go to continue learning, end quote, DeVos said. Quote, schools have got to be open up. There's got to be a concerted effort to address the needs of all kids, and adults are fear-mongering and making excuses simply have got to stop doing it and turn their attention on what is right for students and for their families, end quote. Okay, according to this, some teachers unions are using this pandemic as an opportunity to pressure school districts and communities into enacting radical sociopolitical change. All right, earlier this month, for examples, of course, I saw this, the United Teachers Los Angeles Union proclaimed that the LA Unified School District cannot reopen safely until it, quote, privately privately operated, publicly funded charter schools are shut down, police are defunded, Medicare for all, government-run health care is passed, a statewide wealth tax is implemented, housing for homeless is fully funded, and more. Furthermore, the union says charter schools must be defunded if teachers are to be expected to go back to classrooms. Quote, unfortunately, instead of flattening the curve, politicians and billionaires they serve have instead flattened school budgets and our capacity to safely restart schools, end quote. UTLA writes of charter schools, citing, quote, research, end quote, by the American Federation of Teachers, end quote. Well, end. So the question here ending is, are the unions really concerned about protecting teachers, or is this about a political agenda? You guys can decide on that. Shout out to you guys in the stream. Shout out to Chrysler Imperial H, Luciano. And let's see. Also, shout out to Secreto TV. Thank you so much. Appreciate you guys for taking care and doing the due diligence on the likes and thumbs up, thumbs down, sharing, daring to share. So yes. So there you go. You have this bit of a strong arming. See, this is here again. These are communist tactics, ladies and gentlemen. We'll hold the children's education. We're even willing to do that. We're willing to take anything hostage in order to meet demands. So it's getting beyond. It's on a different level. It's beyond you've got organized domestic terrorism. And it is that you've got a huge amount of collusion. And shout out to you, the rapper 10,000. Like I'm saying, of course it's radical, but since when is it the concern of a teachers union to, how do they decide that they're going to, everybody's using the same tactics of the Democrats. Give us what we want or we won't do anything. Stalemate. Or, starving you out, riding it out. It just looks like it's just like piling on. The corruption in this country right now is just it's piling on. It's got to be the most revealing thing. If you can't see it, this is radical on so many levels, and it's border. I would imagine is it even legal for these organizations? These are NGOs. It's almost like these teachers unions want to be states. They want to be state sponsored. They want state representative. They want state representation. They're hustling the government for money. Give us money or we're not going to do, or our members are going to quit. Well, some people might say they can be replaced. So it depends. Everyone has different needs when it comes to education, but this is a very unique time for parents and students. There's some unique opportunities here as well. So the agenda is not, we're losing. This is what I'm talking about, the battles. Education is a huge battle to lose. It's a huge battle to lose, America. It's a huge battle. When you've got teachers unions that are dictating anything, I'm not going to get into any specific names of any specific organizations, but this is all strong arming. And yes, this is the same thing that they project. They project what they're doing. And this is just not to hold any institution of learning or any of that hostage over defunding the police. And that was quoted there in that article from the TNA, that of course I read that last week, that they published the statement that if their demands weren't met specifically, that they were not going to be returning. And to me, the Black community should be outraged over these types of tactics. But instead, what are we doing? I don't want to go bad black sheep. Is that what it is? See, this is what I'm on. I don't want to turn this into a rant, but I see I'm hair trigger because there's so many things that are going on right now. There's certain groups of people, or there's just people that cannot afford to be blind. If you're going to be willfully blind, then you get what you get what you get. But it's beyond the permanent state of victimhood. State funded is turning into the United States of affirmative action. Was it a university, Rutgers? That was a university that I once considered attending. They want to dumb down, water down, and tell the Black community, we got to treat you differently. We got to dumb you down. You can't reach where you can't get to where you can't get to the standard. You can't make it to the standard. That is absolutely infuriating to me. That's not a hand up. That's not a handout. That is an outright insult. And it makes every single thing and it makes the success of many people. It makes like all of the successes or battles that Black people have won in this in this country. It makes it null and void. Nobody wants your consolation prize. And who gave these people the right to determine what Black people should be offended by and how they should learn and how they should think? That is control. This think reform, it's all demoralizing and more destabilizing. And that's what they're good at. They're good at destabilizing situations that are already fractured and already damaged. Now, this stream, I was concerned that it was going to be a provocative rant, because I'm just looking at all the smoke and mirrors and the grandstanding on Capitol Hill, and just I listened to Speaker McCarthy speak out about this whole thing about China accountability, and I think another Rep Lou Gohmert, who proposed the cancellation of the Democrats, that he's contracted COVID-19. McCarthy is going back and forth with Pelosi over her not responding. It's just nonstop. This is turning into a bit of a rant. But you know what? At this point, it's not my concern. You know, you might want to turn away or put your earplugs in or enjoy the shadows on the wall, because this is where I'm about to go. There's also the late John Lewis. He's being, I believe, put to rest today, or at least there's been a swath of memorials and these kinds of things going on. And then, of course, my condolences to Herman Cain and his family. He passed away, and then that has been labeled also COVID-19 related. I mean, I'm telling you, it's pile on 2020 is what I'm calling this. This is, you're going to need a time capsule. You're going to need a time capsule for all of these things, all of these events. But I'm going to keep going here. Believe it or not, I did have an agenda, but I seem to be getting off. Shout out to the Rapper 10,000. Thank you guys so much for taking care and doing your diligence to hit those channelytics on the channel. I appreciate that. But I'm going to tell you this. Now, I'm already all over the place, but I hope you guys can bear with me, because I'm going to go back into this the unsung mandate of the Great Reset is where I'm going to go next. I want to say this. And this is to the Black community right now. And I'm not excluding anyone. I don't mean to alienate or ostracize anyone. Not meaning to do that, but I'm saying I'm speaking specifically to the things that are going on. I submit that in these times that the Black community stop looking for martyrs. This is not an attack on Representative John Lewis. So let's just get that out of the way. But what I am saying is we've had more martyrs than most people, most indigenous groups in this country. Where has that gotten us? There is a level of con to what I'm talking about. So we don't need that. We need to look within ourselves and try to figure out what individual and what self-sufficiency looks like. Because at the end of the day, when communists are trained to teach you how to create martyrs. We have martyrs. We already have martyrs. We do have martyrs. We have martyrs that are walking around right now. And some people might find them in the LeBron Jameses and all these Hollywood personalities. That's another martyr. And guess what? You contributed to the creation of that, because either you brought your kid up on sports and but did you bring them up on anything else? Can you bring them up on something metaphysical where they can balance things out and increase their lot? It's all right to be athletic, but you need to use what's up top. Instead, someone like Dr. Carson gets smeared. He gets smeared by the likes of somebody from South Africa, because maybe he's not speaking very quickly, or these things are absolutely repulsive, but that's a part of the demoralization. It's a part of it, to not look up to those people that actually use their minds to be successful. Use your mind and your muscle. But I tell you, one muscle will last a little bit longer. And I do believe it's the brain that you have. I submit that. So if you can stop creating martyrs and start looking within yourself. Because as you can see, what do you get? What do you get from martyrdom? You're not getting anything. You're getting served up victimology and victocrats all over the place, and they're telling you how to stay poor while they go out and make their millions, sign their $1 million contracts. But meanwhile, they're petting you on the head, throwing you a few crumbs. That's it. And this is very regressive. This is a very regressive state, a regressive tone, and a regressing primer that they are putting on this country right now. And it is an attack. It's an attack on the Black community, is what I'm calling out. It's another destabilization. It's a wave. It's a retro 1960s type of situation that I can see here. It's retro. It's already been done before. It's been done in Cuba. It's been done in Algeria. It's been done all over China. It's been done all over the world. It's communism. And you end up high and dry. That's what you end up. Instead of learning about actual historical figures, you're praising social justice warriors and marching around wearing NWA t-shirts, and I'm saying it's despicable. It's very disheartening to see, but nobody can see it. You have to open your eyes and see it for yourself. I recommend everybody on this channel I recommend that you always do your own research. You're more than capable. If you're interested, you're capable. You're capable. But I cannot, I get so tired of, I mean, even during the civil rights movement, the thing about it is, if anybody were to look at the stats, and that's why I tell people to go take a look at the movie Uncle Tom. You've got survivors of that time, successful survivors of that time period. Before the 60s, we had a much healthier community. The trajectory was on the right track. But then all of a sudden, you got these civil rights in there, and you got the same people that are right. The sociology departments were captured by nihilists, the Frankfurt School, and all of a sudden, you ended up with all these liberation theories and all of these radical groups and everything, and they made everything they could appealing to the Black community, from whether it was single motherhood to welfare systems. They made everything attractive and they made everything accessible. And they're doing, and you got 2.0 right now. This is not a civil rights 2.0. It's something far worse than that. But they're attacking your education. Rutgers University, what is the English department? I mean, is really English really beyond the Black community? I think not. That is an excuse. That is a case study. And it's also the unraveling of this country. This country's values are going down the drain. And it seems like at times we're powerless to stop it right now. That's what I'm talking about. These are battles, and we're losing. Okay, we don't lose the war. Yeah, but look at these are critical battles. Certain battles, once you lose certain things, you can't, it takes generation to recover from these battles. So why should we lose so many? And then I'm going to go on to this thing, to this. I know I'm hopping around, and this is sounding more like a rant, but I want to go on to a little bit of hypocrisy that I see with the whole frontline. I'm not sure if you guys are familiar with the frontline doctors. I think it was maybe sponsored by the Tea Party. That they were on Capitol Hill. I didn't post the video. I wanted to stream it, but I didn't think it would last, because the same thing that happened to those people who did create videos about that stream, they got pulled down, or either they're serving 3 days in Facebook jail, detention center, or whatever. I didn't do it. But here's the hypocrisy with that. Here you had a group of doctors talking about their experience with this pandemic. You had a group of doctors talking about experience. Well, who are they treating at the CDC? Does anybody know? How many people? And then when I hear McCarthy talk about how, more the members of Congress, how Lou Gohmert has contracted this thing, and he set up a plan that would be a safer plan, and Pelosi hasn't responded. Well, why haven't you guys called out Fauci or the CDC? Why didn't you fight for the frontline doctors that were talking about this? Why not? And that's where the disparaging and that's why people are losing or have lost faith in the system, because people are talking out of both sides of their mouth, and that would include flip-flop Fauci. Been flipping and flopping, regularly. But then you're surprised that some people are still contracting this, or they're still at risk. I'm not here to profess that I have medical advice, but I am here to profess that when I see hypocrisy around it, that I'll call it out. It's such a, everything, it can be a rabbit hole. Cold War Jesus. I don't mean to neglect you guys in the stream. I went off on a bit of a tangent, so I'm only going to run for about another 20 minutes, and then I'm going to have to call this stream. I apologize for the difficulties, but I think I'm going to do a moonlight stream is what I'm going to do to try to make up for this. Let's see. The Cold War Jesus says those doctors did the right thing by educating people about how to effectively save lives. Fight big money is difficult. Eric, shout out to you. Eric Chanot, the dude yelling at the African doctor woman is insane. Let's see. I'm going to try to get in some more of these comments. Shout out to you guys. Shout out to Unique View. Unique Time. I mean, Unique View, not Unique Time. Unique View. I'm thinking it might be. I might aim for 7, which is PST, which would be 10 p.m. I might even do 6:30. Between 6:30 and 7, let's say that. 6:30. I'll post it between 6:30 and 7 p.m. that I'll come back. But then but I'm going to do a morning stream tomorrow as well. This has been a bit of a wonky week. I've had a lot of things to wrap up. So I apologize for the inconsistency, but I will post a fresh schedule. We'll post a fresh schedule next week and it'll be a consistent schedule. It won't be broken up anymore because I will have rearranged some new things, some things that came up in the last 5 weeks. I've had to make those changes. So they were a little bit unknown, but next week it'll be on regular schedule for the rest of the summer, regular. So, okay, where was I? But yeah, I it's pretty gross, for the lack of a better word. I mean, and then of course, I'm jumping all over the place. I started out with the teachers unions acting like domestic terrorists, but that's a money thing too. Okay, I think that's very much motivated, and that's also they want to erase everything and redo it in their own image. They want to. It's a part of the Great Reset. With that said, I'm going to go over because I believe my rant could be a little bit crazy, but I'll offer one more comment on the whole frontline doctor. It's a frontline doctor, doctor cover up. I will offer one more thing on that, and then I will take you to the next segment here. But I just had to get, I just felt compelled to get on because I think maybe she even has a thread, this doctor, she has a thread, I think maybe it's called Enough is Enough. And of course she's under attack. So I'm going to wrap up with my comments on that. In fact, that came to Capitol Hill as well yesterday. Shout out to Garrett Reed, wherever you are. Thank you so much. Let's see. So, yes. So I'm going to just wrap this up. So Stella Emanuel, that was a viral video. It was like 17 million. Fact check all you want. Load up. 17 million, I think, across platforms. I'm not sure. Maybe that was even just one, but that came up on Capitol Hill. And of course, this is here's the hypocrisy in this. Okay, so this is a defamation of a doctor, And it's basically, you know, they've got to figure out a way to attack her credibility or her spirituality or her personal life. But here you have, okay, according to their rules, this is an essential worker. She's a Nigerian woman. She's an immigrant. Doesn't that go against your narrative to disrespect somebody of that? To disrespect somebody that literally checks all of your boxes. She might appreciate if you just say thank you and just get out of her way. Shout out to you, DJ Vision Barnett. It's nice to see you. It's been a lifetime. Thank you guys so much for coming in. But I will I'm going to follow that story on this Estella Emanuel and see what happens with her. You know, I think that the drug, that's a pretty generic drug. And I think it's been around for some time, but it's not a moneymaker. So, you know, no cure there, right? And then, of course, I've heard the comparisons about Europe and these other places. And okay, there again, that's all. There again, more smoke and mirrors. That's a distraction. Because if you haven't figured out by now, we're not talking about this attack. Can I say the macro attack is on the U.S. It's on the American values, the American way of life, the American constitutional republic, the American values, Judeo-Christian values. That's what the umbrella encompasses. Okay. Yeah. Okay. U.S. make the U.S. look bad under Trump. 2020 pile on 2020, right? Make them look worse than ever. And so, yeah, that's, you know, of course, we're going to be compared to even the lighthouse in South France when it comes to the handling of the pandemic. So, yeah, it's one thing about, and I don't mean to generalize, and this is not, it's a shame that I'm even offering a disclaimer. I normally won't, but, you know, this is not an attack on any immigrants. But, you know, I would imagine there's one thing about that I've learned. I don't think Stella Emanuel is going to go down I don't think she's going to go down in flames or whatever. I really don't. I think she can hold her own, as they say. I really do. And yeah, I think she can hold her own. Shout out to Unique View. Thank you so much for coming in. And I don't think she's going to, even with all the attacks, I don't think, you know, they might be able to stifle something, but are they going to be able to cancel her 100%? That's their job, is to defame, discredit, libel, you name it. But to me, again, you know, this is where it doesn't seem that we are in control. As a free people, we are submitting to something that's more like a statist health system right now. Since when do we not get second opinions? Since when are we not? I mean, if you had a cold, I mean, did you guys call the CDC the last time you had a cold, or last time you had a sinus or an upper respiratory infection? I mean, who'd you guys call? Is that who we're supposed to call? It's Fauci and Birx, and who designated these people? America didn't elect. See, here again, this is already starting to look like we've already our paradigm has shifted, people. Fauci is equivalent to the UN's Tedros. Tedros doesn't have, I mean, maybe, you know, okay, Fauci says he's a scientist, but Tedros Adhanom had no medical experience, yet he is the general. He was the general. I think the last conversation was that they want to, the UN, who parents the WHO, they want to promote Bill Gates to the WHO's as the WHO's general. That's who they want. In that case, Tedros will be demoted to whatever, but he's already been brought up on crimes against humanity. Tedros in other Western countries, cholera, he already has a record. And he already has a record. But here in this country, we are deferring to one or two people or the CDC. We don't have a cure or a vaccine for the common cold. But I don't remember the CDC treating anybody for this pandemic. I don't remember them treating anybody. So I'm just thinking, how can they discredit anyone with a different opinion, or with a different case studies? So, and then meanwhile, you've got all these things going on Capitol Hill. It's like, what's on the docket this week? So I'm going to go ahead and finish up this segment. I'm a little bit all over the place. Shout out to 1970s Tiger. Thank you guys so much for coming in on this flash stream. I wasn't going to stream, but then it's just been a little bit frustrating. I mean, I don't stream for 36 hours, and then it's a powder keg everywhere. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to take you guys right now to the World Economic Health Forum is it's the blueprint to some of the madness. And I'm going to take you over there right now. So, and then here, I mean, they tell you what they're thinking. They're telling you what they're thinking. They tell you the trajectory, you name it. All right. So this is the weforum.org. This comes from here. This, of course, is more on target with Agenda 2020. All right. This one is entitled Global Cooperation is More Vital Than Ever. This is why. All right. It is in the interest of each party to work together to overcome interconnected global challenges, i.e., they're going to give you a few points here. They say coronavirus is showing a lack of global cooperation. And you know exactly who they're referring to. And even opening a new front line for competition. The key lesson from the 2008 financial crisis was the coordination stemmed not from selflessness among parties, but precisely because it was in the interest of each party to work together. At a time when global leaders are looking to maximize the benefit of stimulus responses to their own citizens and businesses, they would do well to cooperate with one another. Now that's rhetorically rich. All right, so the great global misalignment is that the very moment cooperation is more vital than ever to address urgent challenges, it is in decline. So here again, I think they're admitting that they're pretty much off target for their 2020. Yeah, I'd say you're off target. Right off, I would. All right, so in late June, referencing the fractured response to the pandemic crisis, the UN Secretary General Antonio Guterres warned, quote, there's a lack of coordination among countries, end quote. Some have gone further, drawing on examples from history and comparing the global quest for a pandemic vaccine to the space race between the US and the Soviet Union, where each side was looking to, quote, win at the expense of the other. Don't you guys love this rhetoric? I mean, it's paradoxically, ironic, but I think, you're if you're picking up what I'm putting down here, it's full of rhetoric here. They've got to make it a competition. They've got to make it appealing. They've got to, make it seem like, oh yeah, there's a race between East versus West. See who's going to get the vaccine first. All right. Though lamentable, it should not be as a surprise that the pandemic is showing a lack of See that the pandemic is showing a lack of global cooperation. How can the pandemic lack cooperation? That's a humanization of a virus. But it can show a lack of global cooperation and even opening a new front line for competition. So here it is. It says the pandemic struck an already unsettled world, one in which profound shifts in power were underway and causing competitive instincts to overtake cooperative mindsets. Now, there again, I think I'm thinking that's a global. I think they're talking about the U.S. and China, for instance, because there's multiple, if you will, if you want to call it races, not necessarily a space race, but there's, we have all these other, the technology kind of a war, the medications, the trade issue, the trade wars. It's all these wars. And some people think that China should be the leader. I think the Democrats think that. I'm pretty sure they do, but I'll continue. Sorry, guys. But the virus can also serve to reset these instincts by reminding global actors that coordination is key to advancing not just shared priorities, but also self-interest. The economic system is perhaps the most salient example of how frictions were increasing prior to the outbreak of the pandemic. It cites here between 1990 and 2015, extreme poverty declined close to 40% of the global population to 10%. This result was largely possible because of a more integrated global economy and global value chains. The effect of comparative advantages between countries in action. Unwinding this system would come at a high cost and would lead to lower growth and fewer jobs. Let's not forget that almost 50% of global trade involves the global value chains. So there's more of a study there. So here again, you're getting here's some more projection here, but I'm going to continue just a little bit more, and then I'm going to wrap this one up. Yet, this system for advancing joint prosperity, albeit a system that was imperfect, was used in recent years as a mechanism for enacting punishment on rivals. Trade has become less about creating win-win agreements and more about gaining advantage at the expense of a global competitor. In late 2019, the International Monetary Fund warned that rising trade tensions would pose a drag on economic growth of approximately $700 billion in 2020. The same increase in friction was manifesting in the area of technology after years in which the US and China had identified areas for science and technology cooperation. A, quote, tech race, end quote, is now quickly unfolding. The competition is high stakes. The number of internet users has gone up from 1.6 billion during the 2008 financial crisis to 4.1 billion today. And artificial intelligence could increase economic growth by as much as 30% over the coming 15 years in those countries that master the technology. This is why there is a sense that controlling rather than cooperating on frontier technologies is a path towards material and geopolitical gain. Amid today's polarized context, many have pointed to the coordination that took place in the wake of the 2008 financial crisis as an example of parties united to address a common and urgent challenge. Only weeks after the collapse of Lehman Brothers, central banks around the world coordinating in cutting interest rates. Shortly after, members of the G20 met in Washington, D.C., and issued a joint declaration that they were, quote, determined to enhance our cooperation and work together to restore global growth and achieve needed reforms in the world's financial systems, end quote. All right, I guess this is the wrap on this one. The key lesson from 2008 financial crisis was the coordination stemmed not from selflessness among parties, but precisely because it was in the interest of each party to work together. The global economy was so interconnected that the financial crisis in one country affected not just in another, but in all those around the world. Today, the world is even more intertwined than it was 12 years ago. The pandemic, the effects of which have spanned borders and industries, makes this clear. And just as the pandemic respects no line on a map, neither do cyber attacks, nor greenhouse gas emissions, nor economic challenges. Only through coordinated action can the world climb out of a deeper than expected recession in 2020 as projected by the IMF, that's the International Monetary Fund, with global output declining by 4.9%. This moment of crisis can serve as a stark reminder to leaders that global coordination is in fact each country's national interest. While the $9 trillion worth of combined stimulus measures G20 governments are injecting into their economies are vital to each country's recovery, the OECD has said that not only would coordinating among countries make the stimulus measures, quote, considerably more effective, end quote, but, quote, uncoordinated or unilateral action would exacerbate the overall social and economic cost, end quote. So there you go. You got there's another blueprint from the WE Forum. That's the World Economic Forum. That's what that is. Once again, I'd like to thank everybody for joining me on this segment of Black Spring with Autumn. So there you go. You got that is, I think that's a bit of the bulk on the competition. I think most of this, they're getting their digs into the U.S. and the U.S. is, of course, we're talking trade deals. We've talked to USMCA. We've talked all kinds of things that have gone on over the last 12 months. I could go back 12 months. The signing of USMCA and tech wars. We talked about that just a little bit. And of course, I don't know what the future of 5G looks like. I'm not sure what that's going to look like, because that's the next thing. That's going to be the next push, I would imagine, is to get people chipped and vaccinated, because you got to cooperate globally. You're not cooperating, United States. You're not cooperating. Not going to according to plan. So I will drop that link in the stream. You can go through the economic hacks on all of that if you want. But, there again, the climate change and all that stuff is here it comes back. Here it comes again, serving it up. So these are the issues that are, I really think that 2020 is a series. It's not just 1 year. I think 2020 is going to have multiple chapters, and 2020 is just the beginning of the end game. Let's see. Take the shot for work. See, unique view. Yeah, that's another thing I'm noticing. They're going after the employers now. And yeah, it's coming. It's certainly coming. I don't know how soon. Al Gore. Yeah, I think he's probably still at large. He might have even tapped Greta Thunberg. Who knows? These people are all working together, turning this into a prison planet. Because right now, I mean, I don't know about you guys, but we're playing by the rules of the elite is what I can see. I really appreciate you guys for coming out on this flash stream. And I will post later for a moonlight stream later this evening. So I'm thinking that might be between 6:30 and 7 Pacific Standard Time. So if you're around, love to have you as always. Thank you guys so much for tuning in. I will offer no apology for the trajectory of my rant today. I will not. Because I haven't done a rant in a while. That wasn't even a good one. But it's just there's just so many things that are off balance. So you guys have a great rest of your day, and maybe I'll see some of you later today. Thank you guys so much for taking care on the Channelytics today. Appreciate it. And thanks so much to the loyal patrons, Derek C. Williams, Killer Whale Channels, Definition of Anarchy, Chrysler Imperial H, Little Miss Goth, Gary L. Younkies Jr., and a special shout out to Cold War Jesus. Thank you guys so much for all that you do. Let's see. And Unique View, thank you so much for coming in. I really appreciate it. I apologize for the technical stuff. That seems to be a regular thing right now. I may have to reconsider my the ISP at this point. Proven to be a little bit irritating. All right, guys.